Pause the video here so that students can copy down the questions. Resume playback once the students copy down all the questions. So today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be starting the process of solving equations. Now there are 4 steps to solve any equation. Cleaning them up, making sure the variables are in one spot, isolating the variable, and isolating the coefficient. And we do that by asking these 4 questions, and these are the steps that we do. Today we're focusing on the last one and that one alone. Does it have a coefficient? And the way we handle that is we isolate the variable through this m/d means the inverse of multiplication and division. So the opposite of multiplication / division. Whatever you see, do the opposite. And so let's start out with some warm-up problems. Now, for our warm-up problems, what we're going to look at is the variable is already isolated. Every one of these is good. So we're just going to go ahead and we're going to clean up the right side of the equation. And we say, okay, if x is 11 plus 6, 11 plus 6 must be 17. So therefore my x is 17. And I box it up. Oh. That works the same if I have a slightly longer version on one side. If y is all of this, well, all I need to do is evaluate everything over here and I'll know what y is. So let's follow them in order of operations. 13 plus 1 is going to be 14. So y equals 5 times 14. And then I multiply 5 times 14. I don't see an operation, so I know I'm going to assume that that's multiplication. So y is, let's see, 14 times 5, 4 times 5 is 20, carrying my 2, 70. Y is 70. Awesome. So we notice that if everything's all only on one side, we just follow order of operations, and then we continue forward. But what if everything's not all on one side? So here I have a 2r. And I remember that, does the r have a coefficient? Does it have a number attached to it via multiplication or division, which it does, that typically comes in front of the letter? Yes, yes, and yes. So how do we handle that? Well, by isolating the variable through the inverse of multiplication and division. So the inverse means the opposite. So how is that 2 connected to the r? Well, through multiplication. And what is the opposite of multiplication? Division. So I am going to, let me do this in a different color, divide both sides by that 2. Because if I multiply by 2 and divide by 2, that cancels out. That's a 1. But if I divide on the left, I have to divide on the right as well. I always have to find that equal sign and make sure my equations are balanced. And so r times 2 divided by 2 is simply r. On the right side, 20 divided by 2 is 10. And let's see if that makes sense. If you have, let's say, r is rockets, 2 rockets for $20, how much is each rocket? Well, if I have 2 rockets, I'm going to divide that in half, and I'm going to divide this in half to get 1 rocket is $10. And that's exactly what we'll do with the math. 1 rocket is $10. So let's try that with this one. Now in this case, if we ignore the negative for a moment, if you have 5 tacos for $55, how much does each taco cost? Well, I divide by 5. It's no different with the negative. If I would divide by that number out front, if it was positive, then I'm going to divide if it's negative. So I'm going to divide both sides by -5. And so I know -5 divided by -5, any number divided by itself is equal to 1. So I have a 1t. 55 divided by 5, let's see, bottom into top. That means that's going to work 1 time and 1 time. Yeah, okay, that fits exactly. So it's going to be an 11. But I have a positive divided by a negative, which we know every time we have 2 different signs and we multiply or divide, they're going to end up giving the difference. So here we have r, or in this case, t is equal to negative 11. So, kind of see what's going on here. Anytime you see multiplication via, basically it's because there's no symbol between the variable we're trying to isolate for and the number. We undo it with division. Let's try something a little harder. This one's going to take a couple steps, but again, I just want to divide by 6. So before I do that, let's clean up this side of the equation. So here I have 6x is equal to 2, and if I follow order of operations, whatever is inside the parentheses, 5 plus 4 is 9. Then I multiply. So 6x is equal to 2 times 9 is 18. And here's where I have 6, let's say x stands for, I don't know, playing card sets. I have 6 cards and 18 friends. How many people can play with each deck of cards? Well, if I have 6 decks and 18 people, I'm going to see how many fit in each group and divide by 6, which means the number of people that fit in this group are going to be 3. So again, we notice that anytime we have a number and a variable connected via multiplication, just undo it with division. 6 divided by 6 is 1. That disappears or cancels out. 18 divided by 6 is 3. And that works the same if it's 2 steps or if it's a bunch of steps. So here, remember, fractions have parentheses. Let's go ahead and simplify that. 8 plus 7 is 15. 15 plus 25 is going to be, let's see, that's 30, 40. 40 divided by 4, negative 5a is equal to 10. And the last step is, how do I get rid of that negative 5? Well, it's as simple as, if it's connected via multiplication, divide it out. So 10 divided by negative 5, any positive divided by a negative is going to be a negative. 10 over 5 is 2. Awesome. And last but not least, I do the same thing down here. I have the variable only on one side, so I'm going to clean up everything I can on this right-hand side. So I'm going to follow the fraction and do what's in the top first. So 36 minus 20 is going to be 16. And then I do what's inside the parentheses. 16 divided by 2 is going to be 8. And then in this case, I have 8m is equal to 2 times 8, which is 16. The last step, because this is connected via multiplication, I undo it with division. So I'm going to divide the left and get m, because those cancel out. And then I say, how many times does 8 fit into 16? Exactly 2. There we go.